All right, everybody, want to take a second to talk to you about an amazing sponsor. We have an amazing relationship with RayAllen.com. Ray Allen is a one-stop shop for everything dog, not just working dogs. Everything dog that you need, you can go down there, check them out, RayAllen.com. Awesome people. They got everything you need.
Another one of our favorite partnerships is with Dogtra. They've been with us from the start. Great collars, great ball poppers, great GPS tracking, big dog, small dog, bark collars, everything. I got everything like that they have at the kennel. We use it every day. Be sure to head them up, dogtra.com. Listen for the discount code later in the episode.
Hey, guys, it's going to happen. August 16th through the 19th. HITS is coming back. The HITS K9 Conference in Orlando, Florida, August 16th through the 19th. Get on there. It's the biggest, the best. Check it out. HitsK9.net. HitsK9.net. Get registered now.
Take the guesswork out of making sure you're feeding your working dog correctly by using Kinetic Dog Food. Hit them up at kineticdogfood.com and look them up on the Instagrams at Kinetic Dog Food. Take all the guesswork out and do it right from the beginning.
We love Horizon Structures. Dude, this stuff is so awesome, man. You can get online. You can talk to them. You could build it you want from mild to wild. They'll come bring it to your place, set it down on your pad, hook up your power, hook up your water, and you can put dogs in it that day. If you don't believe me, check out some guys like Justin Rigney's got a great setup there. Ask him. Check him out, horizonstructures.com.
All right, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite from a very windy Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am Ted Summers. With me, as always, from Canton, Ohio, is Eric Stambro. Eric, what's going on, man?
I got a lot going on, man. So today's what, the 7th or something like that of April? Yeah. 7th or 8th. Monday, I went and met up with David from Black Rocks Canines in Pennsylvania. He's in Connecticut. We meet in Pennsylvania. I got 4 dogs from him, dual purpose dogs, green. They will all be sold by Monday. So me and Jordan, the kid who works for me, are banging out reps just to proof them off of all the stuff, that people test for. And then an agency is coming tomorrow from Montgomery County, Maryland. They have big, like 20 dogs. They have 3 of mine. They just picked up. They needed a 4th, so they're going to come up and select. And then I have contracts for the remaining 3 that I'll start training them on Monday. So that's moving along pretty good. Here's something interesting, unrelated to dogs. The last episode that came out was, I can't remember who it was, but I was watching it. May have been the Jason Johnson episode. I don't remember. But I was watching it on Twitter. I wish you guys, or on Twitter, YouTube. I wish you guys would all go watch YouTube. You can see all my little quirks that I have, my little Tourette tics and everything. I go insane watching myself on there. But one of the things I noticed that I do is where my computer is, when the guest is talking, I will sit back and look like this here and watch, and I'm staring at the person talking. It looks like I'm asleep. It drove me nuts. I'm like, wake the fuck up. Yelling at myself like a weirdo as I'm driving down the road.
Yes.
So anyways, that's it, man. We just got a lot of dogs going on. The pet side is cranking out. Our daycare is finally paying for itself.
I saw that. It looked like you guys were like hosting Fight Club or some shit.
Yeah.
I saw videos.
So the video I put out today, I just posted today. I went out, I brought in a training dog that I had, and I'm socializing him in daycare, and I just want to put him in the outside area to pee and hang out. And they go, oh yeah, they're out there with a group of dogs. I didn't know. I walked out, I was like, holy shit. They all bum rushed me at the door, jumping on me and everything. So, but yeah, it was a good group. We're in a really sweet spot right now. I have really good employees. Everything's, that side's all going pretty good. So anyways, what's going on in Tulsa?
Spring is here. I act like I haven't lived here a majority of my life, and I act, it's rain, and then it goes from 90 degrees one day to literally 40 the next. I almost got sunburned. Oh, I did get sunburned, and then the next day we had snow. I was like, and then it's windy as shit, which I'm always shocked because it's in the state song, and you can't be surprised. So people are like, oh, what's Oklahoma like? It's hot, flat, and windy. And that's pretty, or cold, flat, and windy, either way. But I got a handler school going on right now, and since I've been kind of cut loose to kind of do tracking how I see fit, I've always been told forever that dogs can't track in high winds. And I had a greenish dog today, two greenish dogs that are one's in handler school and the other one is getting ready for handler school. I had 25, 30 mile an hour steady winds, crosswinds to 35 to 40 mile an hour gusts, and mocked just 5 tracks each today with those dogs. And they were fantastic. I mean, and it's really good to see the handlers, because where the handlers from out in Western Oklahoma, it's really hot and really windy and flat. So he's like, "Oh, this is great. This is exactly what it looks like. It's not this cold." But yeah, so I had a department come look at single purpose dogs yesterday. They're going to get a flop year. I got 5 flop years now, and 3 or 4 of them are sold. So we're going to start those pretty quick. I got this handler school to finish up next week, get him certified. We're going to go train with the guys from the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics during the big training day thing, do a certification at the same time. And then I got another handler school starting, and then 2 more handler schools starting shortly before or after Blue Line for 2 single purpose dogs for a sheriff's department here, just this sheriff's department just south of Tulsa County. And then more of the same. And then we've gotten a rash of murder pony pit bulls recently. Fucking kennel for the pet side. We got one the other day, and we got one today. They told me that he was a little anxious and that he's had some bites, and we tried to put a slip lead on him to get him out of the car, and it was on.
No, he has more bites.
It was on. And they kind of warned us, but they never tell the truth. They're always like super like, I had another one for another local kind of person that's well known, and they're like, "Oh, he doesn't like dogs," and they get him out of the kennel, and he's trying to kill a Malinois puppy. I'm like, or they get him out of the car. I'm like, They're like, "Oh, he was a bait dog." I'm like, "I got news for you. He was the dog that killed the bait dog." It's like, this is not. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. But yeah, we've the facility is still coming along. All of my 30,000 or however many square feet of astroturf was delivered, and that's going to be put down here pretty quick. All of my outdoor kennels are done. The roofs are getting ready to be put on. So yeah, it's going to be we're rocking and rolling, training pets to be not jerks, and training police dogs to be jerks. So yeah, more of the same. Yeah. So who do we have on tonight?
Well, before I get into that, you mentioned the floppies. I forgot. I got
you got the little cotton ball.
3 springers in from our buddy Milan out over
Best
in Germany.
Names ever. Gecko is one of them, right? Or what is his name?
Gecko, Tano, and Rafa. Yeah. And I got to, I really like them. They're hilarious. They're a lot like some of those hunting breeds. They piss in the kennel a lot, but I'm working on that. But the one Tano, who I think is going to end up out with Rich from Police K9 Radio out in California.
Oh yeah.
Tano's the best flop year I've ever had as far as for training. Unbelievably fantastic. I say he's like a tiny little furry Malinois is what he's kind of like. And clean in the kennel and clean in the crate. That's hard to beat with those little dogs. But so yeah, I'm trying to find work for them because they're English Springer Spaniels, so they're smaller than like the U.S. version. So they're even maybe too small for some of the government contracts for the statement of work, but it's all right. I'll get them. I bet they could find the shit out of some bed bugs, them little bastards.
Yeah.
But anyway, so tonight, our guest is a friend of ours. It's been a friend of mine for quite some time. She's been here to my house. She's been here to my facilities several times. For some reason, she comes here in the winter. I don't understand how that's worked out. Froze to death. But she's come up and
not having a good time, bro.
No. She's come up, worked some dogs with me. I've done some training with her and some dogs, and then she has facilitated the purchase of some dogs from my kennel for a police department down in South Carolina. So I'm gonna go ahead. I got to put my glasses on because I'm old, and although I don't know, it's pretty bright in here. This ring light that we got is pretty bright. I might be able. Fuck, I know. I should put the glasses on. So our guest tonight was born and raised in South Jersey. Surprisingly, the accent's not. I think she kind of lost it. I don't hear it like other folks from South Jersey that I know. But she had told me that before. And I'm like, get out. No, you're not. But anyways, she graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in 2005. And after graduation, she commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army, active duty deployed to Iraq. She got out of the Army and immediately commissioned as an officer in the Coast Guard. Spent 2 more years in active duty before becoming a cop in Arlington County Police Department, Virginia. I think a lot of people that are close to the flagpole up there when they get out end up joining police departments all around the D.C. metro area. She remained in the Coast Guard Reserves and deployed to Afghanistan in 2014, which I'm going to ask her about because I don't understand what the Coast Guard is doing in Afghanistan. It's far away from our coast, but I don't know their mission profile. So 2015, she left Arlington and moved to South Carolina, probably to be warmer, I would assume, amongst a lot of other things. And she tried out another career, which I have no idea what that is. We'll talk about that too. She got back in law enforcement with the Summerville Police Department in 2016. She was selected as a K9 handler and was paired with K9 apart. And we're going to talk about that because they kind of became a little bit famous on television and the internet for a little while. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And Summerville Police Department has 2 of my dogs down there. So we've kept that relationship going. She became their trainer down there in a de facto supervisor after the supervisor left. She left in July of last year and opened Ridgeside K9 Summerville. So this episode is in the series of people who were in law enforcement, in the dog section of law enforcement, and got out and are doing things dog related. And so we're great. We're like really super happy to have Tara Burke on. Tara, how are you on?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Awesome. That's so happy to have you on.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It's kind of surreal having listened to you guys for so long, and Eric, our past, and me bugging you, and here we are. We've come full circle. It's really weird.
Yeah, in our group text, the Working Dog Radio group text, I texted, "Hey, would you guys be interested in having Tara Burke come on?" And Ted immediately, because I love Tara. Sure, let's have her on.
That's just because you let me get beat up for.
I was gonna say, I'm just happy I didn't fucking kill you.
Yeah. Tara, you decoyed an HRD seminar. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
And by the end of the first day, I had a massive black eye, an arm I could barely move, and a ridiculous number of rug burn and everything else. It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
If you're going to decoy for one of the HRD seminars, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, we did the amoeba drill in a room that had carpet.
Oh yeah.
So it got Western pretty quick. So yeah, Tara and Joey came down for that one too from Penn, and they looked like we had beat them. We took them out in the back and beat them with baseball bats. It was rough.
So let's talk about your background a little bit. Talk about growing up in South Jersey. Are your family dog people? Were you raised with dogs and all that stuff? And then we'll get into your military career.
So we had one dog growing up, and when we got that dog, it was kind of like a big deal. My parents just weren't really into that kind of thing. But I used to ride horses, and I know you guys have talked about this a lot. Dog people, or horse people rather, transition very nicely into the dog world. And I did that very young, like elementary school through middle school. High school, I just became obviously more involved in school stuff to get ready for college. But, it's one of those things where horseback riding was the first thing in my life I was ever naturally good at. I went out to show my first show and went out into the ring. My parents had my brother and sister there, and they were like, "Oh, if she does bad, make sure you support her," And I went out and I got first place my very first class. And that was, thinking back on it, was a pretty good indication of how life would go. So again, going back to, we've come full circle. It's kind of weird.
I'm not afraid of hardly anything in the world, but I ain't
Yep.
fucking with no horses.
Yep.
Nope.
Nope.
So you doing it as a kid's impressive.
Mm-mm.
I hope to have one again someday. We'll see.
All right.
No.
Good luck with that. I'll stay over. I'll come down and visit you and be like, I'm good over here.
Yeah.
And if you got to feed some bitch with your hand open so to bite your fingers off, I got nothing to do with that. Man.
I have dogs like that. I'm good.
Yeah. So you get out. Before you go to the Merchant Marines, did you go to college?
So Merchant Marines was college. Marines,
okay.
Most people have never heard of it, but it's literally just like West Point or Annapolis. It's actually a Federal Service Academy. It's the 5th one that's never been heard of, really. So 4-year degree, whole 9 yards. I have that Bachelor of Science in Marine Transportation, of all things. So,
is that transporting Marines or is that?
No, like cargo
water?
ships. So I actually got, when I graduated, a 3rd mate's license to sail any vessel, any tonnage, anywhere in the world.
I actually feel pretty stupid asking you the first question because when you started talking, I'm like, duh, I know that. I watched a documentary on the Merchant Marines. Is your final year like all on a big, huge, giant wooden ship?
So it's not the final year, but we did I did 4 months my sophomore year and 8 months my junior year.
Wow.
And freshman year and senior year are actually all on campus. But yeah.
What's that like on the ship?
It's fun. It's neat because you're 20, 21 years old and they're like, okay, here, go out and literally see the world. Like the very first ship I was on, I flew to Augusta Bay, Sicily, and got on a ship.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really neat experience, but at the same time, you have a C project that they call it that you have to do. So you have to maintain discipline because that's worth like an entire year's worth of credits. So you have to, do it, then test and pass and all that. So you have to be able to be disciplined enough to do the work and still have fun at the same time, which is really tough for a lot of people.
Do you remember all the terminology still for all the wooden ship stuff?
Hell no.
Fail. Interview over. No, just kidding. So you get out and you get into in the Army as second lieutenant. What was your job?
I went to the 82nd and I was the XO of the forward support troop for the 82nd cab, in the 82nd cab for the 117 cab. So bitch work basically. Yeah. Whatever the CO needed, I did. Believe it or not, and this is really cheesy, but when we actually got deployed, I spent a lot of time where he would be like, hey, LT, I need to borrow a truck or I need to borrow whatever from that unit. Can you go over there and talk to them? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because we were on a really small fob and there wasn't very many females. So I got sent to do the dirty work. But my real job was to help be responsible for the movement of aircraft parts between, we were stationed at 3 different fobs, and moving aircraft parts between the 3 and making sure that aircraft stayed fully functional.
You were there for a whole year. Is that pretty typical back then?
Yeah, it really was. We left in July and came back in July. So very, very common.
So you get out and you immediately pop over to the Coast Guard. What made you do that? So
my ex-husband now was also in the Army and was getting out and was going to be got a really good job in the DC area, right? Because that's where at that time I transitioned from Fort Bragg up to Fort Belvoir in Virginia, and I thought I don't want to move around anymore. I want to stay put. So I said I'll go on the Coast Guard. Their Coast Guard headquarters was right there in DC, and it was a really easy transition. And I thought at the time I didn't want to deploy anymore. The irony in that is I wound up volunteering for the Iraq or Afghanistan deployment in 2014. So
all right, let's talk about that.
How did I wind up in Afghanistan?
How does the Coast Guard end up in Afghanistan?
It's so the mission sounds really cool. It's called the RAID team, but it's actually really not that cool. It's Redeployment Assistance Inspection Detachment. So our job was to go over there and help these guys that were coming back home pack up all their stuff, especially hazmat, and make sure that the containers were loaded properly so that they could be put on a ship and sent back home. So I got to travel around Afghanistan quite a bit because I was the only Coast Guard officer at one point in Afghanistan in the entire country. And our unit was only 13 people. And so I had guys like 2 guys at one fob, 2 guys at another fob. So I got to travel around quite a bit and see those guys. But for the most part, their jobs were on the fob and to stay there and help these guys, help these units pack up and go home.
That you did a lot of helicopter travel? Is that how you got around mostly?
So that's how we traveled around Iraq. In Afghanistan, a lot of it was planes. Some of the smaller outlying fobs, that was a lot of helicopter travel.
Yeah. We had Steve Stoops on, and we are talking about dogs and helicopters because I hate them. Helicopters suck. And so,
I'll take a helicopter over a plane any day. I could sleep like a boss on a Chinook, but it's just make me nervous. I don't know.
You know, I'm gonna meet somebody someday. I'm like, "What'd you do in the Coast Guard, dude? I was on the raid team. It's only 13 of us. Fuck yeah, buddy." I'm like, "Hey, I know what that means. Paperwork guy."
Exactly.
So you get out, get into law enforcement. Was that a thing like you always wanted to do? Is that a family thing or anything like that?
So my dad's actually a career volunteer firefighter. So no, I had an uncle that was a police officer, but that was it. You know, I think it was just like, it sounds so cheesy, but I really wanted to just like keep serving, right? But I didn't want to stay active duty because I didn't want to keep moving all over. And so it was kind of like the next logical step for me, I think. And Arlington is an incredible department. Being right there, proximity to DC, a lot of people start there and then actually jump over to the federal side of things because the agency is very prestigious, and those 3-letter agencies are very quick to pick from there.
Yeah, I know. Talking to Aaron Taylor from Ridgeside, who's at Loudoun County in that area, and a lot of the guys in that area that are like dog trainers get out when they retire and they go straight over and start training dogs for 3-letter agencies. Yep. What was it like with that agency, and how the fuck do you afford to live in Arlington?
I didn't. I lived about 30 miles south of there in Woodbridge, which literally that commute took years off my life. My shift was 1:30 to midnight, and I would have to leave my house by 11:30 to get to work on time. It was stupid. Because who the hell can afford to live in Arlington?
Right.
But now I forget what the purpose of the question was. I was thinking about traffic.
How the department was like. What was the department like?
Honestly, I loved it there. I really did. It was a great department. Again, very, very prestigious. So like our pre-academy stuff was pretty tough. Like they didn't mess around at the academy. Our academy class started with 22. We graduated 11, and there were 7 of us that made it through field training. So if you weren't cut out, at the time, I don't know what it's like now, but at the time they were like, "Thanks for coming out. We'll see you later. You know, this isn't really for you." But funny story. So there was a guy who was in my academy class, made it through to field training. His dad was pretty high up in one of the Maryland, not PG County, it might be Montgomery County, as a matter of fact. He was on a call. They deployed a dog got a bite. He literally walked out of the house and was like, "No, I'm good," and left that day and never came back after the dog bite.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to text them. I'm gonna text you later and get that name, and I'm gonna ask because the 2 guys that are coming up from Montgomery County, one's been there a long time, so he probably does. So let's talk about the move to South Carolina. What got you there?
So my husband, he already had a job down here when we got together, and he had tried to find a job up there, but you know, it's tough in that area to find work. And he's like, "Do you want to move to South Carolina?" And I was like, "Shit, nothing holding me here. I can be a cop anywhere." And so I left. Thought I was done with law enforcement, but apparently.
What was this other career?
I tried out real estate for a hot minute, if you can imagine that. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. My wife did real estate for a while. She hated it.
Yeah. You know, also I did apply to Summerville when I first moved down here, and I did what I was supposed to do, sent the application to town hall, and somehow my application never made it from town hall to the police department. So I got a rejection letter, and I was like, okay, well, that's my sign to get out of law enforcement and do this real estate thing. And then when I decided to get back into law enforcement, Summerville had an opening, and I reached back out to the lieutenant over training at the time, and I was like, do you have my application from last time? And he said, what application? So he had never actually received it. So go town hall.
Wow. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take our first break. We get back, we're going to talk about getting into the K9 unit. We'll talk about your first dog and kind of being on TV and a bunch of other things that happened there. Not everybody, but a lot of people are going to go, oh shit, I know, right? As soon as you set apart, because everyone knows your dog's name. Nobody knows your actual name. My grandkids call me Stan Bro, for Christ's sake. Nobody knows you. It's insane. So
your fucking grandkids.
Yeah. Stop. So, all right, we're going to take a break. We will be right back.
HITS K9 Training Conference. This is America's premier canine training seminar, packed to the brim with the world's best instructors and me and Eric, all covering important topics. There's no better place to learn and no better place to network with other handlers, breeders, and trainers. HITS 2022 is being held in Orlando, Florida this year, August 16th through the 19th. And I know how you guys are. Everybody waits at the last minute. And in the post-Rona world, everybody's training budgets are being cut and everybody's deciding whether they're going to be able to get to go or not. So don't wait, because they're not going to have an infinite number of spots, and the price goes up after a certain date. So get signed up as soon as possible. It's in Orlando. We'll see you there. Be sure to hit them up. HITS K9, letter K, number 9.net.
One of the best relationships we have in this podcast and in this industry is with the great people down at Kinetic Dog Food. The story of Kinetic Performance Dog Food is pretty simple. They wanted to make a better premium dog food for the dogs that need it the most. Their goal is to give every working and sporting dog a higher energy level, better performance, and better overall health through superior nutrition. So they formulated a line of food based on what they considered to be the optimal profile of a performance dog. They've done tons of research on this. This isn't their first rodeo. These guys know what they're doing. If you're a kennel, they will come to your kennel. They will see the problems that you have. They will check out what works for the dogs that you have. They're amazing people to work with. They drop ship a pallet right to you if you want. I know a lot of guys that use them. There's a bunch of different formulas on there, and 32K might not be for your dogs. Maybe the 26K works. They can adjust it. They'll give you the right ideas what to do in different parts of the year. Winter's different than summer. It's really a well-run, good dog food company. KineticDogFood.com. Be sure to check them out on social media too, man. They're amazing folks. KineticDogFood.com.
By now, you've probably all heard my story at least once. I'm usually getting tagged by dogs or hurting myself. So this next product is like near and dear to me because I actually use it. Quick Turn by Vet Care. It does great for keeping small things from turning into big ones. I use it at the kennel for clients' dogs that have some issues with skin stuff or have food allergies or have environmental allergies. Works great. Keeps hot spots from making giant hot spots. And it keeps my working dogs, who inevitably find magnificent ways to hurt themselves, from turning it into a giant vet visit. Stops little issues from becoming big ones. So it comes in a spray, it comes in an ointment, it comes in a dressing. It's great for creating a protective barrier and promoting wound healing. You really only have to use it like once a day. So there's no reason not to have it in the vehicle. Since it's temperature stable, you don't got to worry about it getting hot, getting cold, or anything like that. So put it in your first aid kit or put it in your cabinet. Vetcare.us on the internet. Quick Derm by Vet Care on Instagram and on Facebook, and then hit them up with the discount code 10WDR for 10% off your first order.
So my entire time that I was a handler or a trainer in law enforcement, the cars at my department, in the departments that I trained, all had American aluminum accessory kennels in the cars. Different cars, man. Dodge Chargers, all Ford models, some Chevys, SUVs, cars, everything. We loved American aluminum accessories. It's a great product, a great company. They've been serving canine law enforcement community for over 20 years. If you check out their website, EZ, that's the letter Z, EZRiderOnline.com. They got testimonials. They got videos on how to. They got a list of everything they have. Just today, we made a post on the Working Dog Radio social media showing a dog that survived a really bad crash because of the American aluminum kennel in the back of the car. Check them out online, guys. EasyRiderOnline.com. Just let them do their thing, man. Whatever car you got for your patrol car, get a hold of them, American Aluminum Accessories, and get the best in the business.
Next up comes training courses online from our friends down at Highland K9 Training, Jason and Aaron Ferguson. So in the post-Rona world, training budgets have been getting cut. People aren't going to be able to travel, whether it be instructors or they be canine handlers and supervisors going somewhere else for training. So Highland has announced a lot of online training courses. One of those that sticks out to me is their police supervisor canine course. And it's no secret that one of the problems with canine tends to be some of the supervision issues. This course is specifically designed for administrators and covers utilization as well as liability and FLSA issues. The course can be taken at your convenience, and you'll receive a certificate of completion at the end. When you go to Tactical Police K9 Training, that's letter K number 9, training.com, and use the discount code WDR30, you'll get 30% off of that course.
All right, everybody, we're back. Working Dog Radio broadcasting the bite with our friend Tara Burke, sitting down in sunny, warm South Carolina. Every once in a while, I'll send her a picture of my dashboard where it says it's like 4 degrees out. And she'll be like, it's 83 here. I'm like, God, that sucks. Anyways, so Tara spent first part of her adult life in military-related things and got into law enforcement. Moved down to Summerville. If you're listening to the first part, this is where we left off. So you're at Summerville for a while. K9 opening comes in. What was the process at Summerville for that?
Pretty simple, to be honest with you. I was kind of surprised. I had only been at Summerville like 6 months at the time. But I'd been in law enforcement for over 5 years at that point. So I said, well, can't hurt. At least they'll know I'm interested. So I put a packet together. I did a notebook with, my resume and all of my qualifications, and did an interview. And that was the whole process. I tried during my time there to get that process changed, but I was never able to get anything to stick. I just always felt like there needed to be more. You
put a packet together like the nerd that you learned to be growing up and everything, and that was good, but it works, right? It's efficiency.
Yes.
So you get it. Let's talk about a part. First meeting, how to go? Where'd you get him?
So he came from Ventosa Kennels. When I went to pick him out, I had the guy that was sergeant over the unit at the time, and another lieutenant who at the time wasn't over the unit and came to be back over the unit again, but was a canine handler like in the early 2000s when it was like bite him if you want to. And they came with me to pick him out. You know what I'm talking about, Ted.
Oh, no. Hey, look, it was the 2000s, man. Like, that was the best time in American cultural history. I said that on Instagram the other day. The late 90s and the early 2000s was our cultural peak. And this is included. Bite him if you want.
He's an absolute badass, and I never got to meet his dog, but his dog is legendary in this area. Mm-hmm. And so they showed me 3 dogs, a female Dutchie who was insane, a male Mal who was huge, and I was like, well, I'm not exactly that big. And then the third one to come out was this dinky little German Shepherd who was scrawny as shit. And this is so cheesy, Eric, you're going to punch me for even saying this, but he was the only dog of the 3 that actually even came up to me, and he jumped up on me and like wasn't trying to rip my arm out of the socket or do anything crazy. And I was like, I think this is going to be mine. I'm not dumb. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I needed to be able to control something. And I felt like I would have that with him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, apart's a sable German Shepherd, when he stands up, you're the same height. So
I compare everything to Ike.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll get into Ike here in a little bit, but
it seems small to me.
So you get him. Did you guys do training in house, or did you go out? You go somewhere else?
Nope, we did training for 6 weeks at Ventosa.
That's right. I do remember that part. So you're out on the road. When we first met, which was online, I don't watch live PD. I never did. I think it's like really bad for parts of law enforcement myself. But you had said something about your Twitter and bragging about how many followers you have, basically, is what you were doing. But no, just kidding. But I forget how the conversation came up. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And you're like, yeah, I was on live PD, and then my Twitter feed blew up from my dog's name and everything. And so I got on it and started, because I'm not on Twitter that much. I got on and started watching. I did have to give you a bunch of shit because you talk on the Twitter account like you're the dog. And that drives me insane. So, and that's a short trip, trust me. So you're working in, let's talk about the live PD. How did it come about? What was that like? And in the aftermath after that?
So one day the whole K9 unit got called in, which always was like never a good thing, right? Like we all get called in and the then captain was there. It's like, oh shit, what do we do? What's happening? And he sat us down and he said that the live PD folks wanted to shoot some commercials and they wanted dogs. And he picked two of us basically to have talking spots in these commercials. And it was an 11-hour day of filming, of misery, for, I shit you not, like 2 20-second commercials. And I thought nobody will ever see these. It was like never going to become a thing. But at the time I didn't even have a Twitter account, and I had some people messaging me on Instagram, and that's when I made a Twitter account, and it's just his name, K9 Apart. And I couldn't believe how like live PD fans are like a cult. And they follow this stuff religiously, like almost in a creepy kind of way.
Oh yeah, believe me. I mean, I'm from the town where Larkin's from.
Exactly.
Believe me, and he and I have mutual friends. Like, and we kind of like know, believe me, I know.
But at least he was like on the show, right? And like doing
right.
things. So I was like, that makes sense. It was just a commercial. I couldn't believe how many people would recognize us, even in town, like within the town of Summerville, like would get stopped, because I would always get out of my cruiser and just walk around because, you know, I can't sit. I'm like you, Eric, I can't sit still. But people would stop us and be like, oh my God. I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah. So Ted, where you're at, it's like the home of live PD, right? Basically.
Yeah. So I play a game, like stay inside and watch live PD, or go outside and be on it. And like there's a gas station, and it's owned by a company called Quick Trip. They're great, right? They're one of the best companies to work for in the country. And like if you want to work in corporate, you have to work in the stores, and they pay really well, and they're clean and they're safe and all these other things. And those dudes have shot more people than I think TPD has this year. They killed a dude like recently, and but you know what? They do a good job, and they're safe, and it's clean, and like it's super well run. But they found a dead body around one yesterday. Like, so yeah, I live in an area that's, I mean, hasn't been gentrified yet. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, we have a lot of gang violence and a lot of drug violence. We have a gang, they put this in quotation marks if you're not watching this, in gang unit, and they're not really a gang unit. They're the fucking gun guys. They're looking for guns. Our Trent Shores, our USADA is really big on them and the ATF looking for guns right now on dudes, and they're really good at catching them. So I don't have a problem with that. And it's always interesting because I see those dudes all the time, like up where I'm at. My kennel's up there, our kennel's up here, and I see them boys driving around, and they don't dress like the normal ones, and they're like the normal TPD guys, but they do a great job. They're professional. They do a fantastic job. But yeah, do I stay inside and watch it, or do I go outside and be on it? Like, that's how close I am. So yeah.
You live in the neighborhood that Ray would get an Airbnb at if there was an HRD in Tulsa.
Nah, when we had the one in Hits in Maryland, like even when we had the Hits in Maryland, our Airbnb got canceled and we got another one immediately. And even the cops from the DC area were like,
PG County.
Yeah, they were like, you're staying where?
And we told them, killed last night? Anybody trying to kill you?
They're like, nah, but where in PG County? We gave them the address, and they're like, hey, you got a gun? Because you're gonna need one. I'm like, no, we got guns and dogs. And they're like, okay, because they're like, and it was I
It was
mean,
quiet.
It was quiet. I mean, apparently literally the apartment complex behind us was like the place.
Yeah,
It was the place. But I was just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it was no big deal. Like, but
I had a puppy there, remember?
Yeah,
Linus,
So-
and I was letting him out with a gun in my hand, like fucking
looking around
motherfuckers.
like we were
4 in the
fucking
morning.
robbed.
No, it was quiet.
Wasn't
We didn't
that
hear
bad.
nothing.
But even the cops from like the DC area that were at his were like, "You're saying where?" Like, I don't even go over there. I'm like, I mean, there's no food, but I mean, whatever. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. So stay
Yeah, it was
myself.
fine.
Leave me alone.
So we talk about. This is just going to be for my ego, honestly. Talk about because like I said, Tara and I have been friends for a long time, and somebody just the other day I followed somebody back online. If people follow me on Instagram, and if I look, if they're especially if they're a canine person, I follow them back. Especially handlers, and somebody put it on their story, fanboying out or something like that because I followed them, which is for me is weird. But it's not weird that he said it. It makes you feel strange. But then you messaged me. I felt the exact same way. So how did our relationship come about? Because you reached out and started it.
I did. I started stalking you on social media and following as much as I could because at the time I had only been in the supervisor role for a little over a year, and I knew I had an insane amount of stuff to learn, and I was literally just trying to be a sponge and learn as much as I could. And you've kind of just hurt my ego because I was the same way, right? When you hit that follow button back, I did the same thing, and I was like, ah. I felt special for a hot minute. Then I learned that you follow everybody. No, I'm just kidding. But I just started bugging you, right? And I would comment on your stuff and I would message you, and I kept threatening you that I was going to come up there and train. And you kept saying, okay, come do it. And I was like, oh, fuck around. I'm going to come up. And sure as shit, I actually used some vacation time, which I had use or lose leave. And instead of going someplace like really warm, I decided it'd be great to go to Ohio in the middle of winter, which was a massive mistake.
It was freezing when you were here. It was cold.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, she came up and we did a lot of tracking. Apart was a great tracking dog. There was some bite work stuff we were trying to work on. I used to have a school that I use. I could still use it, but they're going to tear it down, so they turn the heat off, and it's colder inside than outside now. But we call it Baxter School. I've trained hundreds and hundreds of dogs at Baxter. Took a part over there, put them through some darkroom stuff, and just had a lot of. It was fun, man. It was a good time. I'm the type of person, because I knew where I was at with my first dog, Gina. I've talked about a lot on here. Issues I had with Gina and not engaging or just she wasn't a police dog. She was an amazing pet dog, but and so I always said I would help as many people as I can. They just got to get here, right? If they can get here, I'll help them out. And at the time, I had an apartment attached to the kennel, so if you're going to stay at the apartment, I might need you to help with the kennel a little bit, But I only had 4 kennels at the time. It's not hard. But yeah, it was a good trip up, and it kind of cemented our friendship. And going forward, Tara's was at Summerville and got 2 of my dogs down there, and Oscar and Vinny. Is still Vinny? They still keep the same name? Yep. 2 great dogs doing good stuff down there. We were trying to kind of change the culture a little bit on dogs they were getting, and I think we've done okay. Done decent work down there. But we're gonna take our other break, and we're gonna get into well, before we do that, were you on TV again?
Well,
You out in California? Did you participate?
yeah, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We tried our hand at Top Dog, season 3.
And how was that whole experience from start to finish?
So in the moment, I really kind of hated it. But again, Eric, you know me well enough to know like I'm big time stressor, and I was so nervous the entire time that I didn't really enjoy it. When I started to actually enjoy it was when I got home and started developing friendships with a lot of people that were on the show, because seasons 2 and 3 were very different than season 1. 2 and 3 was just like a massive hodgepodge of just people with dogs. Like some of them were dog trainers, some of them were not. There was not that many cops like there was on the first season. So I just met a ton of really awesome people and really awesome trainers that I still kind of keep in touch with now. And we go back and forth, and people I've learned stuff from, people I share things with. So that was kind of the best part of the whole thing. A part decided that he didn't want to swim that day. And I failed him as a handler because I know I could have just like given him a little push on his butt and he would have jumped in, no problem. But they had told us like, you can't touch your dog, you can't touch your dog, you can't touch your dog. So when he froze, I froze. And I was like, shit, they told me not to touch him. But, you know, again, he did way better on the rest of the course than I thought he would. So I was really happy about that. Obviously would have liked to have finished better. The episode I was on specifically was all veterans. So that was kind of cool. I was the only police officer in that whole group. So yeah.
Was it your season where they had the strike?
Yeah. When we were out there when they had the strike. So I flew out on September 11th, as a matter of fact, and that was like a Saturday, I think. And the strike started like Monday or Tuesday. And so we literally, and this was like height of COVID, so everything was shut down. So there's nothing to do and no place to go. They actually got to the point where they were putting us in vans and like taking us to local parks just to get us out of the hotel because there was nothing to do. People were renting cars and like going into Hollywood and stuff like that. But again, I cocooned myself in my room because I was so nervous about the whole thing that I didn't really enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I remember talking to you while you're out there, and then my Mike, our friend Mike Garber, he was on season 1. He was talking to people that he knew out there, and I felt really bad for you. I was like, that sounds absolutely miserable. Like you're stuck, like you can't get out.
It was for a few days. It really was.
Ugh, that would be horrible. So anyways, we're going to take our commercial break, and we're going to get back. We're going to talk about some of the sport work that Tara does and getting out of law enforcement and kind of what precipitated that, where we were headed. I may have pushed a little on Tara to help her make some decisions, but and we're going to talk about, getting out of law enforcement and still working with dogs in the civilian world. So stick around. Don't fast forward. If you do, the show notes will have all of the discount codes and the websites and everything for all our sponsors. Stick around. All right. We love the Perkinsons down in North Carolina at Highland K9 Training. They are great people, great trainers. They got a good business model. They're awesome folks. We've been with them for a long time. They're also super smart, and they understand that a lot of agencies are struggling to have manpower, so they're not sending people away for training. You guys have been there. You put in, denied, lack of manpower. So they've created an online course section of their website, tacticalpolicek9training.com. You get on there under training, the online course. But here's the best thing is they offer a canine supervisor course, which we know a lot of police canine supervisors don't get to go to training. They don't know as much as they should. Right here online, the course discusses topics such as proper selection of dogs and handlers, proper deployment, effective allocation and utilization, as well as liability and the FLSA issues, which we know is where all the legal stuff comes from, interdepartmental. The course can be taken at your convenience, and you will receive a certificate of completion at the end. They're offering an amazing discount, guys. 30% off using the discount code WDR30. It's a no-brainer. If you're a police supervisor and you guys have manpower issues and you can't go, get on tacticalpolicek9training.com under the training tab. Get on that supervisor's course, man. I'm telling you, it's a smart decision.
Another one of our favorite partnerships with the podcast here is the one and only Dogtra. The Dogtra guys have been producing some amazing tools in the dog training world for a long time. Everything from e-collars, GPS tracking, ball trainers. If it's electric and you use it with a dog, they've probably done it. They're the best. They are revolutionizing the way you communicate with the dog. I use it daily, whether I'm using pets. I use the 200C on most of our pets. Most of my patrol guys will use a 1900 hands-free, 1900S hands-free, and then I use the ball popper pretty much daily with all of our detection dogs for imprinting on our box protocols. So hit them up at Dogtra Official on Instagram and Facebook, and then you've got dogtra.com. And when you go there, if you use the discount code WDR10, they'll give you 10% off a single item over $200. So if you're looking at a 1900S or that Ball Popper Pro or one of those things, it'll knock a substantial chunk off there. So hit them up, doctor.com, WDR10.
So everybody knows that Ted and I not only train police dogs, we train pet dogs, right? We train dogs. So it's why our relationship with Ray Allen Manufacturing is so important. These guys have been doing this so long. They knew and they understand that dogs are dogs, and it's not just working dog people that need things for their dog and dog training. So you go to rayallen.com. They have everything dog related that you need. Anything that when it comes to dogs, pet dogs, your pet, training dogs, police dogs, dogs you're training for other departments, anything you need, rayallen.com. They've got it. You can get on there. So if you're ordering stuff for police dogs, and if you have a pet side, you can get it all in one, man. They ship it out. Got a nice big box full of a whole bunch of stuff. There's nothing better than getting a big box of dog training stuff in the mail. They also are great to us, and they offer a discount code Working Dog Radio, all capital letters, Working Dog Radio, for 10% off. Check them out, rayallen.com. Great people. Ted and I use them every day.
Super excited to have American Aluminum Accessories on board with us here at the podcast. These guys manufacture a wide variety of products, from high quality cam locker toolboxes to an extensive line of products designed to meet the ever-changing needs of the law enforcement community. Around 1992, due to the demand for safe and secure transport for a local law enforcement agency's K9 unit, they introduced the very first in-vehicle Easy Rider K9 container. So it was basically what we now call just our inserts. They have continuously grown and expanded the products, catering to the needs and the wants of their valued customers and high-profile clientele, and catering specifically to law enforcement. Over the years, as the needs have changed for law enforcement, they've evolved and expanded the products to include inmate transport systems, the K9 training aids, which I use quite a bit of, K9 inserts. Every one of my guys has one of those things. And if you're not even have to be in law enforcement, I have several friends that are civilians that work lots of dogs that have the inserts put into their cars too. So if you got one that fits, you can do it. They also do contraband and animal control systems, just to name a few. So be sure to hit them up. The website is Easy Rider Online. So that's the letter E, the letter Z as in zebra, rideronline.com. If you're looking for them on Instagram and Facebook, it's American Aluminum Accessories. Feel free to hit them up there too.
So our first and oldest sponsor that's been with us from the beginning is Arno out at ALM, out there in Las Vegas area. Arno is a great dude. He makes great stuff for police work and sport work, suits, tugs. I'm telling you right now, his tugs are the best in the business. You can't get any better. Multiple colors. I buy boxes of them from him, give them out to everybody. I've got a bite suit from him. Love it. I've had it for a little over 3 years, and it's holding up like a champ. Ted's got a suit that he's had forever from ALM. We wouldn't go anywhere else, man. We love it. Arno is such a good dude. His ALMK9equipment.com is the website. Get on there. He's got pre-made suits. He can do custom suits based on your measurements. He's got stuff already made up. If you kind of get a kind of generic large size, maybe for everybody, the colors he has, man, is really cool. He can put a lot of stuff on those suits. Check him out. ALMK9equipment.com, and use the discount code WD Radio for 10% off.
Running a kennel is one of those things that I always worry about, is cleanliness and safety of dogs. And it seems like it's an ever-changing issue, being able to house dogs and move things around, everything else. So the guys at Horizon Structure make this as easy as possible. Literally, the only thing you have to do is have water and power hookups, and they deliver it, and you can put dogs in that day. And it comes on a trailer. They just drop it off. You plug it in, put dogs in it, and you're ready to rock. You keep them clean, you keep them safe, you keep them cool in the summer and warm in the wintertime. And it's completely custom. You can go mild to wild. I've seen some that were stainless steel all the way from top to bottom on the inside. And then I've seen some for a bulldog breeder that, had smaller gates because those things can't jump. So if you reach out to them, They're sitting there waiting for you to call and help you through the custom design process. They have everything from 2-dog ones up to, I want to say like 18 or 20. It's a lot of, you can put a lot of dogs, indoor, outdoor runs. So anything you've ever dreamed of, they've got it, have done it, or can do it. So they've taken all the guesswork out of building it. Everything is pre-done to your specifications and it's assembled, dropped off, boom, you're ready to rock. Things are amazing. Rigney has one. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Go check out his Instagram, and you can see he's posted it up there before. Go look Horizon up at Horizon Structures, spelled out. On the internet, it's horizonstructures.com, and you're going to look for the link in there that says commercial dog kennels, or give them a call, 888-447-4337. They'd love to talk to you and get you started on the way.
All right, everybody, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting The Bite with our good friend Tara Burke. We found out that Ted lives in a war zone, which is pretty cool, pretty neat. And
yeah,
one day it's as hot as the surface of the sun, and the next day it's in the frozen tundra. So I thought Ohio was bad. We just never get that hot. It's just
no, it gets stupid hot here. It gets ridiculous hot here. And I know everyone's listening here. It's like in Arizona. They're like, oh, fuck you. It's getting hot. I'm like, yeah, bitch. We got humidity, though. Yeah. So it'll be 110, and then it'll be like 85% humidity. And they're like, oh, what's that like? I'm like, it's special. Yeah. Like, and then the same thing. You go to Vegas, and they're like, oh, it's a dry heat. And I'm like, so is opening the oven or standing in front of a hairdryer. It's not pleasant. Like, I don't give a shit that it's dry. It's hot. It's it's academic. It doesn't matter. It's uncomfortable. It sucks.
The ladies in Arizona don't know what boob sweat is. But if you live in a humid area, a place with humidity, you're like, yep, I got it. Know what you mean. Good to go. Sucks. So anyways, that was weird. We're here. Real quick, Ted, speaking of the heat, is this the first year you're going to have AC, full AC in the place?
Yeah. We got.
You're not going to know what to do.
I guess
work inside,
not sweat. That's going to be good. I can tell you that, like, detection, I'll be able to work detection at fucking noon.
Yeah. That's the worst, man. You're dripping.
I'll be able to work detection at noon, and then it'll be awesome. And I'll have a toilet, which is cool. So that works. So that's going to be nice. So yeah, it's and I installed my dog bath today. That was cool.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, we got the same exact tub.
Yeah, that's a
game changer for us.
Rad, right? And we have
radly expensive too.
I don't want to talk about that, but I do have one of the instant hot water heaters, and so it's in Celsius, by the way. So everyone's like, "What is 63 Celsius?" I'm like, "Fucking hot."
Hot.
Yeah, I'm like, don't. They're like, well. They kind of look at me and they're like, what is 65? I'm like, fucking hotter. Like, don't turn it up. So, I mean, they had it turned up to, I don't know, hot. Like, damn near, yeah, I mean, it had to have been 155, 160 degrees. Hot enough to blanch chicken. I know that and they turned the water on, and I know it was kind of cold today, but I was like, what the fuck, guys? I was like, what do you have this set on? They're like, oh, it's only set on like 60 degrees. I'm like, 60 degrees Celsius, bro. No, we cannot wash dogs at 60 degrees Celsius. We're not like fucking soft boiling dogs. I mean, I was like, let's crank this down a little. It was like, yeah, it felt a little warm. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it did. I'm like, get on fucking Google and figure that shit out, or just know what the difference is. But I don't know.
I have one of those same heaters, but mine just says hot or hotter. I mean, there's no number on it.
Ours is and there's no way to change it. I'm just like, whatever. So I set it and locked it, so those fuckers can't change it.
Yeah, the old lock.
Yeah.
So we're here with our friend Tara Burke. She's down in South Carolina. She was law enforcement for a while, doing canine stuff. Current owner of Ridgeside K9 Summerville. So in the spirit of this particular series of episodes about leaving law enforcement and getting into the private sector, let's talk about first, so being friends and that we talk from time to time, I could sense from conversations and even through text messages, which if you can convey certain things through text messages, it's pretty serious. That I could tell that your love for the work or for the job was waning, and it was stressing you out. And it seems to be, especially these days, a very typical theme. Without getting too far into all the particulars, you want to talk about where you were at a mental state?
Yeah. It was actually like last year at this time, I had pushed myself so far. I was, K9 unit supervisor, working a regular patrol shift, on our SWAT team, just doing all the things, plus my reserve duty, plus I was still doing pet dogs like on the side. I had physically worn myself out to the point that I thought there was something medically wrong. And I went to the doctor, but it was just straight fatigue. So I actually went on FMLA and took some time to try to figure out if it was something medical or not. And during that time, the business started picking up. My friend Lydia, who you've met, Eric, she was living with me at the time and helping with the pet dog stuff. And we started getting busier and busier. And, as you know, talking to you, I just got to that point where I was like, I think we're busy enough that I can finally do it. Summerville was a great agency, and I really enjoyed my time there. As I grew as a trainer, started to not see eye to eye with some of the command staff. And that was a real problem for me. And I felt like it was time. Like you said, I loved training dogs. Tuesdays was our training day, and that was always my favorite day. I was like, I want to do this 24/7. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm good at. And at the time, Summerville, they still don't. They didn't have a position for a full-time trainer. And between that and kind of butting heads with command staff on some things, with support from people like you, I made that jump, and I said, okay, this is time. It's time to go big or go home.
So I don't own Ridgeside K9, the brand. That's Erin Taylor. You can see my hat's got my little logo. I own the Ridgeside K9 Ohio. She's got her little hoodie on. I live in those hoodies.
Yes.
I'm wearing a college hoodie today, but so I had, after I retired, I was doing the Van Ness thing for a while, and we've talked about this a lot. I've talked about it on the social media. I split off into the Ridgeside K9 brand and opened Ridgeside K9 Ohio because I had to separate the police dog stuff from the pet dog stuff. And with Erin's help, we were doing pretty good at Van Ness, and then we just exploded. I went from having 3 pet trainers to 11 in 6 months, and so it went really, really well. And again, I don't own the brand name, but I am very particular and kind of an ambassador for the brand. And Erin's very particular about who is going to own a location. And I can't remember if I mentioned it to you or if you mentioned it to me or if Erin reached out or somehow. How'd the train start working with the Ridgeside K9?
Blue Line, as a matter of fact. Aaron did that class on, I forget exactly what it was called. He'll probably kill me, but it was like entrepreneurship type stuff. And he taught 2 classes. In the first one, there was only a handful of people in there. It was like the last class of the day. And so it turned into like 2 hours of Aaron and I basically talking to each other. And I think he was kind of feeling me out and to see where I was at. I hadn't left the police department yet at that time. I was still on FMLA, but I hadn't actually left. And when the class was over, we walked outside and he was kind of like, yeah, we'll be in touch, blah, blah, blah. And it was that night that he, I think, messaged you to kind of get is this chick legit or not?
Yeah.
And luckily you gave me a glowing review. At least I hope anyway, because I'm here. So thank you. And it took some time because he had some, other locations to get up and going and stuff like that. But we finally got website up and all that as of like December 1st.
So the difference between like me and Ted and you was I was at the police department and I was doing police dogs, but I wasn't really doing pets at all. And Ted was doing exclusively police dogs, and you were doing a little bit of both. And then, I'm sure Ted Oh, I know. We've talked about it. We're talking shit. We ain't doing them fucking pets. Fuck all that. Ain't doing pets. Ain't doing pets. Ain't doing pets. Boom. Here we are. 90% of our business is pets anymore. So for us, that was a like an immediate overnight weird change for us. But I had already left the police department. I retired, and Ted just moved from one building into his new space, and the pet dog stuff is there. Before we get into yours, we haven't really talked about it that much, Ted. All of a sudden, just one day I asked on the podcast, asked how things are going, and you're like, yeah, I got a bunch of pet dogs. What was for you that significant change? Like, how did it roll out? Like, you just took one and started?
Ours was a little more deliberate. We had been asked before to do pet dogs, and my previous business situation didn't really allow that, both in terms of facility and in terms of setup. So it really wasn't like anything I wanted to do. Plus, honestly, I don't enjoy dealing with pet people. And I say that not to be like dismissive or demeaning or whatever. Cops have to listen to me because they're paid to be there, right? And if they don't listen to me, I fucking fire them and send them back. I've done that recently where I'm like, this person sucks. Like, give me a new handler. Like, they shouldn't be a fucking canine handler. There's 100 other jobs in law enforcement. Let them go do one of those. Pet people are a little different, and my personality doesn't really jive with that, so I have a really big problem with that. So ours was very deliberate. We had a plan that we drew up between the three of us that are involved in Torchlight, and had a marketing budget that was specifically targeted with Google AdWords and some other things and some Facebook and Twitter stuff and Instagram and stuff. And we had a target of what we wanted in terms of the amount we needed and everything else. We had like packages set up and all this other stuff. So it was a little more deliberate than that. And I also kind of like looked at my local market, and I'm sure my local, and I got to be honest with you, I don't give a fuck who is in Tulsa training to pet dogs. I just got this dog today. The murder pony, pit bull came in. She didn't tell me who, but she said that a vet and 4 other trainers in town said the dog needs to be put down. I'm like, fuck that. And I was like, this is 100% created. It's not genetic. Ain't nothing wrong with this motherfucker except that he's been allowed to do this bullshit. I just told her, I was like, no, give me 2 weeks. We'll fix this shit. I ain't worried about it. And at the end of the day, we've already got him out walking around a leash, and he's not trying to murder people. And it's straight up genetic, but it like, and I don't give a shit who isn't, because we have a lot of trainers, alleged balance trainers. We have guys that are like not necessarily like the large, it's not sit means sit. It's not off leash either. It's another one. And I'm just like, I don't care. And I'm friends with several of them, right? And I'm known for doing fucking police dogs. So we end up getting the dogs that are and on top of that, we end up getting the dogs that are a little more difficult to deal with.
So part of the reason why, and I think when Frank Ritter brought up the idea of doing this series of podcasts, what struck me was, and I get this completely, is so if you're in law enforcement, it's a secure job, right? For the most part, you're there, especially if you work up north with the union. You're there. You can just stay there and ride it out, and retire, get a pension. Some places don't have pension; they have 401k or whatever it is they have. You just got to ride it out. Most people, by the time they retired, are so unhappy that they there's not a lot of guys in law enforcement. This is going to sound horrible, but when I was at the police department, there were guys that would leave, they would retire, and we would take a pool on how long they would stay alive. Not from suicide or anything, just because they looked like shit and they lived like shit and they were depressed and they were just miserable. And some of them were miserable their entire careers and they sucked, but some of those were good dudes, right? And so leaving a secure career is not an easy thing to do. Based on the people that I talk to, when I talk to them, if I think they can do it, I'll encourage it and kind of even prod them a little bit and check in on them. And that was kind of the case here with Tara. But Tara, talk about that, the trepidation of stepping off and doing your thing and leaving a guaranteed paycheck.
I think the actual hardest part was walking in and putting in my 2 weeks. It was like, once I did that, it was like the weight of the world had been lifted, and I felt like I could actually do it. But it is terrifying, right? Like, I went to a federal service academy, then I went in the military, then I became a cop. Like, there was always that security, things I never had to worry about. Like, when I was in the military, I didn't have to worry about medical because that was all taken care of. So when I became a cop, I had to think about that, and that was new. And so leaving that and leaving, you know, I wasn't vested at either agency because I was only there 5 years. It's in Arlington and almost six in Summerville. So I didn't really lose much, but I also felt like I was right on that cusp of, you know, shit or get off the pot. If I'm going to do it, now's the time to do it. Otherwise, I'm going to be that guy who's stuck in this position till they're, you know, in their 60s and miserable and not able to do anything with life. And it took me a really long time. So Lydia and I actually started kind of chatting about this in like October, November of 2020. And I didn't actually put my 2 weeks in until July of 21. And I'll be honest, up until the time I walked into the office and did it, I didn't know that I was going to. I really didn't. I didn't know if I'd have the balls to actually say, okay, fine, I can do this. And some of that goes back to lack of, you know, confidence in myself and my abilities. My ability not to train dogs, but my ability to manage all of the other stuff that nobody talks about. You know, Ted, you were just talking about like the Google ads and that kind of stuff, things nobody thinks about. Just answering emails and phone calls and all that. It's an absolutely terrifying jump to make. And I really didn't think I would do it. And if it wasn't for people like you, Eric, and for Aaron for giving me the opportunity, I'd probably still be there and be miserable. And it's funny because people who know me really well, my poor husband included, will tell me I'm a totally different person now. I really am. Happier, like I'm able to enjoy life. Like obviously I have stress, but it's a different type of stress. It's not that stress. And I think you know what I mean when I say that stress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, Eric has said this when we did Eric's retirement episode. We did it in Canton. He was like, you know, and you said, Eric, you said this multiple times. You're like, I didn't leave law enforcement because I didn't like the job. That's right. Never what it was about, and it was
never
always,
the work.
It was always who you worked for. And having been self-employed, basically since Clinton was in office, like I can tell you, and I'm sure you both, and Eric, especially you, have found out that it's extremely freeing, right? Like, I mean, there's been multiple times, like I was just in California at HRD, and a very, very large company that we were being hosted by, or using their facility, was kind of upset that we were doing bite work outside, and the employee from this huge company came to us and said, you know, you're scaring people. I'm like, I'm sure you'll get over it, because they asked who was in charge, and everyone there turned and pointed at me. I'm like, great. So I'm like, you'll get over it. You're not going to die. And you don't have a mask on. It's California. And they freaked out, which was not the answer they were looking for, because they wanted me to kiss their ass. And what the fuck are they going to do? Fire me? Like what are you going to do? Like,
did you have your hey fuck face hat on or whatever?
No, I did not have that on. I was dressed appropriately, aside from the fact that I'm fucking covered in tattoos and like whatever. But it was just kind of this like cancel culture bullshit that is endemic in everything. And I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, you're not going to die. We'll be done in a little bit. You'll be fine, I promise. And not what they wanted to hear. And some of the cops standing there were like, I'm like, what the fuck are they going to do? Like, not going to buy a dog for me? I'm in Tulsa. I don't give a shit. Like, they're not going to have me train their dog. I don't care. Like, who cares? What the fuck? I don't care. It's some guy. And so it's very freeing. But you're right. It is very terrifying. Like taxes and fucking health insurance and regular insurance and fucking rent and Google AdWords and bullshit. Because that's what the joke is. Everybody's like, oh, you get to play with dogs all day. I'm like, fuck. That's what you think I do all day? I'm like, you are sadly mistaken. I mean, we do play with dogs a lot, but I mean, a lot of it, like, it's still a business. Like, the police side's still a business. It still requires work. You know, the pet side is definitely a business. You both know that. Like, the pet side is a lot of, like Tara, you mentioned it. And I will say, thankfully, Alicia and someone else take care of emails and text messages and phone calls and all that bullshit. The only thing I and my guys have to do is train dogs. That's it. That's all we do. And I am grateful for that, because if I didn't have them, I would not be doing it 100%. Like, it's definitely a teamwork makes a dream work thing, because if I had to deal with that shit, I would fucking shoot myself probably. I was there's no fucking way I would do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we're talking about this, that you step out and you're gonna do dog stuff when, you know, in the civilian world, like Frank Ritter on his episode, he talked about he's in a different situation where it's him and 4 dogs. That's a great gig for that guy, right? But if you're gonna get into stuff like Tara and I are doing, and Ted, you have to be prepared. This was the thing I was telling Tara while we were talking about getting ready for her to come into the Ridgeside K9 fold, was the way Aaron does the in the beginning, the way the website is built and the Google ads and everything kicks off. You got to be ready. Like, when he turns the faucet on, the phone starts ringing and the emails start coming, and you have to be ready. I mean, you can pass on people. That's cool. But, you know, the website guy will tell you, you have a couple hours to answer those people, or they're going to Google other dog trainers and they're just going to move on. So for me, when we started, I had the Ridgeside K9 Ohio brand for a year and didn't do anything with it. And it was because I was nervous, because I didn't have enough trainers. You know, dog trainers, they just don't fall out of the tree. They're not around that much. It's nice if you can groom your own. You know, Rich, that has Ridgeside K9 Northern California, he does things a little bit differently. His board and trains are all at his facility. They all stay there. None of them go home with a trainer. And then the way he does it is that he can get interns, kind of like you do, Ted, bring in people and groom them.
Yep.
You know, groom them the way your system, the way you want to do it, and you have an eye on them at all times.
Yeah, or like Kenny does, fucking Licklider. We just had him on again, and that motherfucker's produced more dog trainers, more canine trainers than I think anyone in history.
Yeah, they just go out into the world.
Everyone goes and works for Kenny, and then they're like, "I'm gonna go start my own shit," and you're like, "Okay," and he has to start back over.
Right. So, like, for me, when I first started, I was I don't know, paying people differently than the government likes, but you know, then we started payroll. Fucking payroll. I was a knuckle dragging dog trainer and a dog handler, and but for me, I got lucky. My wife had done payroll at her the place that she was working at. She kept her regular job the whole time, and then eventually has just started working for the company, which helps. And I have another manager, and I'm lucky there, because at this point now I get to focus on the police dogs, and I have a dog downstairs in my house right now. A board and train. It's the last board and train I will do. I won't do another single pet dog after this. I just can't. I don't have the time. I did this because it's a good friend of ours. I have enough trainers now. I'm lucky, but you don't have to become me. I have 4 fucking buildings now, and there's a whole lot that goes into it. Just cleaning the damn places. If you went to the fun house, you'd be like, I didn't know that you had someone clean. If you look around and see all the fucking dog hair.
What the fuck does that mean?
It just means my vacuum. I haven't used it lately. But so I have 4 buildings, and then, you know, I don't know, like 15 employees, 20, more than that. Fuck. Like 20 employees now. Things that I never ever thought I would have, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can be Frank and 4 dogs out in the middle of nowhere doing the stuff with those with the big turbines. Speaking of that, I saw a news article today that some turbine company got fined like $8 million because they killed a bunch of eagles.
I saw the same
bald
article.
Eagles.
Yeah. I saw the same article. And I immediately thought of Frank. I was like,
what the fuck are they supposed to do?
like,
the eagles just flying into the damn shit. I don't know. But so anyways, because like Tara is, and eventually you're going to get pushed into a bigger operation, I would assume. But right now, is it the two of you and your husband helping, or just the two of you?
So I actually have Lydia's doing all of our in-home lessons, which is fine because Ted, I'm like you, I prefer not to do lessons if I can avoid it at all possible costs. And Lydia doesn't want to do board and trains, and she loves doing lessons, so it works out really well. She just bought herself a new vehicle, better on gas, so she travels all over the low country and does that. And I've got actually a good friend of mine who's still a canine handler. Ted, you met him, Jeff from down here in the city.
Oh yeah.
He's doing one dog a month for me right now. And he's basically taking that money and putting it into his daughter's college fund.
Perfect.
And then I've got another trainer. She's actually up in Greenville, which is like 3 hours from here. So right now she either drives down and I get her like 2-3 week dogs and she drives back, or she's actually booked herself a bunch of stuff up that way on her own. But I'm at that point, like you said, how you kind of waited for like a year because you didn't have people. That's where I'm at. It's like, I need more trainers, but I also have massive trust issues. And so for me to say, okay, I trust that you can come and take a dog and represent my brand, that's really hard for me too. I probably need to let go on that a little bit, but that's kind of where we're at. Ultimate goal will be to have a facility someday. Hopefully not in the too distant future. You know, Aaron and I have talked about that quite a bit. So we'll see, but yeah, it's like you said, once that faucet turns on, like right before we got on, I was answering emails and stuff like that. Like it's all day, it doesn't stop. I love it. So, you know, sometimes I'll be out there walking a dog and I'm like, holy shit, this is my life, right? Like this is my biggest concern is where my dogs today. It's
freeing, right? Like you can do it well. I mean, and on top of that, and I see this a lot with dudes that get out of the military, that kind of like go into these positions, and when there's nobody telling them what to do, they're like I know what to do, but I don't know, like, and so all of a sudden there's all these other skill sets. The other thing I want to mention too, especially since we're talking about law enforcement, such a huge, because we ask people like how you found us, right? So Google, Instagram, Facebook, right? We target ads. You have to be good with social media, and damn near everyone listening to this that's an active cop or an active handler, a majority of you probably have some bullshit social media policy that your department has because, well, not now that Elon Musk just bought Twitter. That ought to be interesting to see how, or well, he not bought it, but whatever. He owns like 10%. That would be interesting to see how that falls out. He sits on the board now. So you have to be good with social media. Like you have to understand how it works. You have to understand how to interact. You have to understand algorithms. You have to understand all of that shit, which if you're going to generate customers. The other thing is most of you guys, and Eric said, you know, like Frank and 4 dogs out in the middle of nowhere, most of you guys listening to this, if you're going to like try and fall into or get into like what we're talking about, you're going to be competing against people, especially if you're in a large area, that have been there for a while. Now, whether they're good or not is not really relevant because from being a police canine handler, you know, like you've seen shitty police dogs, right? If it was only the work that mattered, we wouldn't see any bad ones, but we see bad ones. So, and then there's the people that have specialties in your areas too. So, my thing is like, we found a niche, we do like certain types of things. There's certain things that I won't compete on. And I would, like Tara said, like I would really like push you towards that. I will tell you, and Eric will tell you, that doggy daycare, he just said at the beginning of the podcast, he said is super labor intensive, and it just started fucking paying it for itself. What, Eric, after like 2 years or something ridiculous?
3.5 years.
9,000 fucking dog fights and shit everywhere. And yeah. And one-on-ones are time sucks, and group classes that are not scheduled well are fucking time sucks. And if you are not careful, the biggest advice I can give you coming out, coming from like being a cop, because you're like used to answering fucking every question or whatever, is not to let people be fucking time sucks. Like, don't be afraid to charge for an evaluation and then credit it back. Don't be afraid to tell people no. Don't be afraid to only take on shit that is going to make you money, right? So, and because I tell people no all the time, like I've told people, I told somebody no today. They're like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "No, we're not doing that." And she kind of looked at me. I'm like, "No, the most toxic bullshit the boomer generation ever told everybody is the customer's always right. And if that were the case, I wouldn't have a fucking job." So no, they're not right. And there's a reason we do what we do. And like, so people say, "Can we do this?" No, you can't. And like, and the people, like, we've had multiple clients like, "Well, I don't like that." I'm like, "Okay, see ya, bounce." I got 70 fucking people in line. So bounce, I don't care. And they usually like chill out, and then they're fine. You know, they just have fucking anxiety. They have so much anxiety that their dog has anxiety. So, but yeah, so don't be afraid to tell people no, and don't let them be fucking time sucks. Like, you know, your time is valuable.
Yeah, for sure. Now, listen, if you guys go back and listen to the retirement episode that Ted talked about, it is not, I actually kind of regret it, to be honest with you. I was pretty fucking angry, like angry at a lot of people, at the world. If you see me in person, you'll see the one tattoo that I have up here that is a very angry person with their head exploding, and it changes into some other things. But people are like, "Oh, who's that?" I'm like, "That's me. That was me." Ted and I did a lot of those rant episodes, and people love the rant episodes. But I'm not doing any more of those. It's unhealthy. I every single thing I said was true, and I stand behind all of what I said. But you know, I could take a different approach, and I can tell. And here's the thing about it: some of you guys ride it out, man. Ride it out to the end. You're good at it. You got a good position. You got a good, good leadership, a good command staff. That's what Frank talked about. That he loved his people that he worked for. Their unit was good. The department was very supportive. Jay Nix, I talked to Jay Nix not too long ago. You know, he's at his job. We just said, "Hey, what's it like working for me?" He goes, "I love it, man. I love the guys, the bosses I work for." That wasn't my experience, and that wasn't a lot of most police officers' experience. You know, it comes and goes, and it's up and down. So if you can ride it out, it makes sense to get to your pension, right? But if you're where Tara was, basically 6 years, because they're not adding the previous, and they're not putting that together. So she's at 6 years. A few more years vested, you're kind of stuck. They got you when you get vested. So if you're bummed out and going to a job every day that you hate, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Reach out to somebody like me, and I can just talk to you about it. And there are people that have called me and asked, and I've said, "Nah, you should stay where you're at. You got 3 more years. You're doing good, whatever." But I can tell just from our conversations, Tara, that you're the happiest that I've ever known you. And I've only known you for a few years, but you definitely seem happier now than I've ever met. And am I wrong on that?
Oh God, no. I really am. Again, just so much less stress. Still stressed, but again, in a good way. And like Ted said, it's very freeing. I think that the biggest piece of advice to folks who want to do this is to, like you guys were talking about, they come out of the military, they come out of the police department, and they're so used to being told what to do all the time. They can almost get stagnant and kind of that, like, not know how to make a decision and not move forward because of it. You have to come out and expect that you're going to literally work your ass off 24/7. I mean, I keep stupid hours because of some of the sports stuff that I do and getting training in with my own dogs. But, it's normal day is somewhere between 16 and 18 hours. And that's just facts, right? You wake up, you start, and it's all the way until you go to bed. And you just have to accept that at some point. Hopefully, you get to a point like you're at, Eric, where you're like, this is my last pet dog. And maybe someday I'll get to that point where I have enough trainers, but I've kind of accepted that in this infancy stage of this business, like, it's a grind and I'm going to be busting my ass, but I'm doing it for me. And that's like the best feeling in the entire world.
And so all the times Tara does a lot of sports stuff with her dogs, couple shepherds and Ike, a Great Dane. And we'll talk about that here real quick. But I see you and your husband travel a lot of decoy schools, a lot of different seminars and things you're going to on the sports side and everything. How much vacation time have you had to use, or comp time have you had to use to go to that? Do you have to ask anybody permission to go?
It's crazy. I don't. And the best part is I load up my work and I bring it with me. And it's funny because honestly, I really do find that these pet dogs, like, especially if they're struggling initially, if we take like this weekend, we'll go to North Carolina for the weekend, just overnight to train. And it's really helpful for these pet dogs. They're super close with my dogs, like proximity wise. And so they really feed off of my guy's energy. So it's like a win-win. I get to go have fun and do what I want to do, but I also am still able to get paid and you know, do the business stuff.
I retired on a Friday. Monday, I was working and I had a beer at lunch. And for me, that was like when I knew. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah. Life is
I didn't have to worry about getting in trouble if I got back to work and random shit happened. I had to, you know, blow or piss or something like that because I'm on my way back and end up shooting somebody or some shit weird stuff that used to happen to me. But real quick, talk about Ike. Ike is kind of like pretty well known, actually. We talked about him on one of the other podcast episodes.
So don't tell Ike he's not a German Shepherd because he will not believe you. He 100% thinks he is. And he's kind of just an anomaly. You know, I got him from a breeder in the way upstate of South Carolina. And I guess I just built like an insane amount of food drive in him. And I can literally teach this dog anything with food. He'll actually even bite a sleeve. It's more of a behavior than actual, you know, any kind of thing else. It's just literally like he'll bite it and hold it because I told him to. But he does it all for food. If I could find that dog, and if anybody's listening, if anybody has contract work for a dope dog, please call me because Ike needs to do something. It's almost a waste to have him sitting here. But, you know, I think I was just starting his detection stuff, Eric, when you and I first met. And I would put him up against, honest to God, just about any police dog out there. He's just phenomenal. And his food drive, it's crazy. We got his BH last year, which was pretty funny. And so now I just kind of mess around with him and do whatever I can teach him. Anything I want to try to teach a dog, I teach Ike first.
We mentioned this on the podcast. One of my favorite things is watching Ike do obedience, like for his BH, where he and his recall, he comes back to you and smacks you and before he flips into position and you see your whole body rock backwards, and then it's funny. I don't know how you don't bust out laughing in competition.
I do, and I also bust out on my ass sometimes because when he was, you know, a 6-month-old puppy, he was still like 80 pounds, but I thought it would be fun to teach him that front position and to chest bump me. I never expected him to get as massive as he is. When he stands on his back feet, my husband's 6'4", and he's taller than my husband. And we really don't know how much he weighs because he doesn't fit on the scale at the vet. So, and you've seen
you guys see eye to eye, literally. I think.
Literally, well, he sees over my eyes.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. He's got his own social media page and everything. We'll get into that. Well, I tell you, I'm proud of you. And I'm really happy for our friendship and happy that that things went well. I'll tell you, before everybody calls me and asks me about, you know, a Ridgeside or you know what they're going to do, if you don't have a similar work ethic to myself or to Tara or to Ted or other people that we know, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to talk to you. If I already know you and I know that you're you know, not really a worker, you can go ahead and do your own thing, figure it out yourself. I'm not going to help you. One of the reasons why I continued on helping Tara and talking to Tara was I got to know her and got to watch her work and her desire to work. We were at, was it Bravo 3 in Florida, Ted, that we were all at? Yeah, we went out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jeff Shetler was doing a tracking thing with proximity alerts, and we were out. We're in Florida, and we're out. And hey, anybody got a dog? And Tara raised her hand, threw her hand up. Most guys just sit around and look because they don't want to maybe feel stupid or think that their dog's gonna not do right. She's like, "I'll get him." Boom, and went and got him and ran the scenario with her dog. So when I see things like that, I'm always going to mentor or talk to that person or try to help them out, because I say this to people all the time, and not to toot my own horn, but no one will outwork me. I work 20 hours a day, 18, 20 hours a day. Everybody I know makes constant comments to me about my insane schedule. I like to post, videos on my boat in the summertime because it does show that I actually do relax every once in a while, which is very rare, but I get to do it. But so I'm proud of you, and it's not, you didn't just fall into it. You work your ass off, and it shows.
That means a lot to me. Thank you.
And I hope everything keeps going. And here's the thing I do want to mention what we were talking about. Ted has a facility. I have facilities. Ridgeside K9 Northern California has a facility. Aaron didn't used to, but he does now. But Tara doesn't. Other people don't. You don't have to start a pet training business or whatever business and have a building. If you have a house and a basement or a garage or someplace that you can put some crates and or kennels, if whatever you want, you can get started. You're probably going to outgrow it if you're good and you're doing your social media stuff correctly. But don't feel like, because I know if you're a cop and you're on a cop salary, you're like, man, I need like a 5,000 square foot place. How the fuck am I going to afford that? How can I do that? How can I ever get that? You don't have to. It's just the way you want to work your business. Like Rich out in California and Ted, their dogs are stay in the facility board and trains. It's awesome. Right. The nice thing about that is all of the money comes into the business then and doesn't go out the door to trainers. My business, because I had a tiny little building to start, all my training was board and trains. Now I have a facility big enough and I have trainers on staff that stay there, and we have some dogs that come in, but still the majority of our dogs are board and trains outside the facility. Maybe that changes someday. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know, but there's different ways to skin a cat, so to speak, that you can do a couple different types of this scenario if you want to get into the pet stuff. And Ted and I have talked about this a lot. Pet dog training will make you a better police dog trainer.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. I used to think, and I know Ted did too, we're both pretty good at e-collars, for example. Mm-hmm. I am significantly better at e-collar now that I train pet dogs. A lot more smooth, right? You would agree with that, Ted?
A lot more smooth, and yeah, your timing definitely gets much better. Most of my trainers, all of them are younger than I am, so they're part of the video game generation, so they understand timing very well. But it definitely will up your game in terms of that. I mean, and for no other reason than reps. I mean, if you're using them for places or recalls or how we use them, I mean, you're getting fucking thousands of reps a week using the damn e-collar, like wearing them motherfuckers out, like wearing them out, not just leaving them on and then the amber light flashing, like using them and having to recharge them. So yeah, you'll get good with an e-collar, and the other thing is good, you'll get good about explaining them, right? I didn't understand this until I started dealing with pet clients a lot, but my grandfather always told me, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it. And so like I would
like that.
Right. And even from the grave, the old man is still just shithead. So it makes a lot of sense. So like when I explain how these e-collars work to people, they're like, oh, it's a shot collar. I'm like, well, okay, so hold on a second. So we kind of go through the whole thing and explain how it works, and they're like, oh, this is great. I'm like, right, it's fucking awesome. And so and I kind of default, and I thought about it after this, and dealing with this is probably going to bite me in the ass, but dealing with administrators or attorneys also, like explaining things very, very simply. So I have to explain some very like complex legal concepts to attorneys, and they're like, I don't know about that. I'm like, okay, like I don't care if you do or don't, but it is what it is. And they'll come back to me a couple of weeks later and say, yeah, you were right. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Like, okay, whatever. Same thing with administrators. So if you can't explain it simply, and dealing with pet people, like, and I have to remind myself all the time, like, these people just want their dogs to not be assholes. That's all they want. They just want their dog to not pull on a leash, not jump on people, not get in the trash can, not bite people that they're not supposed to bite, or not bite people anyway. And not fight with other dogs, and not fight over food, and not fight over couch space, and not fight over bullshit, and just be happy pets. And that's sometimes can be kind of a thankless job, but I think, well, people kind of underestimate it a lot. They really do, right? And you know, a lot of times people after the fact will say, "Oh my God, I can't believe it took me this long to come get dog trained." I'm like, yeah, your life is better. He's not getting the trash. He's not tearing up your neighbor. He's not fighting with the other dogs. So yeah, you'll be good with an e-collar. That's for damn sure.
I'll tell you this. I mentioned this to someone yesterday, I think. I've trained hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of police dogs and pet dogs, hundreds and hundreds of them. And the happiest moment I've ever had training a dog was I got a little fat silver lab named Newman who's afraid of everything in the world to jump on a stack of dog beds. That was it. Getting that fat little dog who had never been upstairs in his house. They had
that I remember you telling me about that dog. Yeah.
Newman was. I have a theory. That fat dogs have like confidence issues. That's a weird little thing that I have. Like some people have. They have. You know, I don't know. I just think I see a lot of fat dogs that have some problems. Not just health problems, but they seem to have confidence problems. And I don't know. Maybe they saw themselves in a mirror and they like, man, I can't jump on that. But so I'm telling you, I set my phone up and I set this obstacle course of dog cots, and I got Newman to jump on a, I don't know, 5 stack high of dog cots. I keep looking over here because I'm looking at my bed. I'm trying to measure the size. It's about that size. Because, like I said, he lived downstairs in his house. He's 4 or 5 years old. Had never been upstairs in his house. Owners didn't understand how to use pressure to get him to do that. And by the time he went home, I had him at Baxter School, running up and down the steps, off leash, on leash, having a blast. The only thing I couldn't get him to do was get on a treadmill. He actually tore his pad open and the treadmill wasn't even moving. That's how afraid of the treadmill he was. I got him to eat food off of a running vacuum cleaner and all kinds of stuff like that. And to me, of all the dogs I trained, that was like the best accomplishment I had. It sounds so stupid, but you know, I expect the police dogs to have to go out and bite people, find dope, find explosives, do all that. Okay, yeah, sure. Awesome. I love to hear that. But the fact I got fat Newman, I used to say it too. I'd go every morning, Newman, when I get him out of the crate. Hello, Newman. And, but that was to date my favorite thing. And it was just some weird little silver lab. But, so Tara, if people want to follow you and your dogs, where is all that at?
So the business on both Facebook and Instagram is just Ridgeside K9 Summerville. Definitely want to get our followers out there. Obviously, that will help with business. My personal social media, I don't really use Twitter anymore at all, actually. But my personal Instagram is bells619_K9apart. K9 apart is probably the easiest portion of that to remember because it's a weird name. And he did come to me with that name. I did not name him. I just didn't change it.
Yeah. Twitter's interesting. I don't use it.
Like I said, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting because Papa Elon is going to put the crackdown. I just saw the Substack told all of the Twitter employees that they're not welcome to come work for them, which is kind of a Twitter competitor. And they're like, oh, if you're worried about it, you can't come work here anymore. I'm like, so it's getting real. Like they're eating their own, which is kind of interesting to watch. So
I like it.
Yeah.
You missed somebody though, Tara. You missed the big tall buddy. Ike. What's his?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He is Ike _Dane. And it's funny, everybody thinks that page is run by me, but it's not. It was actually created and it's run by my husband.
Oh, really?
I mean, I tag it into all my stuff, but yeah, I don't run that page.
Zach playing around with a big old funny Great Dane. It's great. I don't see him in the videos though. It's always you and Ike doing some pretty fancy obedience.
All he wants to do is get bit. He has absolutely zero desire to handle. So I've got all these dogs and he was supposed to handle any one of them, and he doesn't want to. And so that's all on me. He just does all the decoy stuff.
That's funny.
And so-
Ted, how about you? Where can you be found?
Ted_Summers on Instagram. That's all police talk stuff. I put up the video today of the tracking, which was the tracking
the wind.
conditions. Oh man, it was. I got so many I got several comments, and they're like, "How the fuck you tracking that?" And I did. We recorded like several of the tracks. I mean, they're fantastic. So Ted_Summers, Torchlight K9, letter K number 9, Torchlight Pets. HRD Police K9. Speaking of which, we just announced we're going to Fort Myers, Florida, in November. So that just came out today. So that'll be fun. It won't be cold, so that's cool. And HRD Police K9, and then of course the podcast is working_dog_radio, where we have all of this episodes information and stuff here. So yeah, that's us. What about you?
Van S. K9 on Instagram, and it's attached to my Facebook now, so you only need to follow one of those. I mean, it's cool if you do both, but it's the same content. Ridgeside K9 Ohio is the pet side of the business. That's great pictures of, cute dogs. WorkingDogRadio.com is the website. You can get on there, see our merch. We got a lot of T-shirts and different things you can order on there. Bunch of different logos. Our President series on there is pretty legit. Ted and I come up with some pretty stupid stuff, and it's worked out pretty well for us. Be sure, guys, do us a favor. Go back through our episodes, especially the recent ones, and go check out our guests who have been on that have 501c3s and are raising money for good stuff, like paying for retired dogs and things like that. Go check out those and support them if you can. If you're looking for a place to spend your money and donate stuff, I would really love to see you do that. But that's it, pretty much. We have a Patreon too, Working Dog Radio Patreon.
Yep.
Tara, thanks for coming on. It was great having you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're a good example of this series of what we're talking about, of people that are floundering in law enforcement or retiring, getting out, and are kind of wondering how they can stay in the dog world. It's funny, real quick, when I was getting Tara set up with Ridgeside, and her and Aaron were working through everything, and I said, you keep traveling, you're doing all this sport dog traveling stuff. I'm telling you, it's probably going to come to a halt when you get on there. And she's like, yeah, I like doing that. I'm not